Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, call him La, Adonai Yahweh, Bashem Shamalak Yahushai, Bashem Kakadash, double honors to the apostles and Elder Great Millstone, peace, salutation, and whole elect, Shalom. Lord willing, I'll come up with a title for this video because, as you can see, there's a lot in worded in this New York Post article. There's a lot worded in this title, and it says Rikers inmate charged with groping a correction officer trying to rape jail nurse on the same day. So this man was trying to be on a fucking whole raping spree, as you can see. It says another inmate was able to save the nurse who Cleaver attacked. A Rikers Island inmate was indicted on Monday after allegedly groping a female correction officer and trying to rape a jail nurse in the same day last year, the prosecutor said. Michael Cleaver, 56, is accused of committing the heinous acts while locked up in the Eric M. Taylor Center on November 12th, according to the Bronx District Attorney's Office. Prosecutors allege Cleaver first lunged and forcefully touched the 39-year-old correction officer at about 2:20 a.m. inside the facility. About 14 hours later, Cleaver then allegedly shoved a 51-year-old nurse into the room, locked it, and forced to her the ground before pulling her clothes down and trying to rape her, prosecutor said. And they put a typo because they should have put forced her to the ground, not forced to her the ground. And it says the attack was halted after the nurse screamed for help and another inmate busted the lock and burst inside, where he pummeled Cleaver, DA's office said. Cleaver was arraigned Monday on 8 counts, including attempted rape, sexual abuse, and forcible touching. If it had not been for that other inmate saving that nurse, she would have probably been raped to, for I don't know for how long, or she would have probably not only been raped, but probably raped and murdered. Some shit like that. But I'll just bring out some scriptures and go along with this lesson. And in Titus, the 2nd chapter, verse 3, it says, the aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of Yahweh be not blasphemed. And that's pretty much the role of women, not to be working, in a 9-to-5 job, not to be doing what a man does, not to be thinking that they out and about, thinking that they could be independent. Nah, that wasn't the role the Most High gave y'all woman. And y'all gonna learn where y'all fall. Y'all gonna fall in line in the day of Jacob's trouble eventually, when the Lord raises up his men, and y'all gonna come into y'all right, y'all gonna stand in y'all right place. Now, honestly, the Lord's gonna put y'all in y'all place, because y'all not gonna be out thinking that y'all independent and shit. And for some of y'all to even hold a job and working in a jail system, especially dealing with with the men's unit in that jail facility, especially in Rikers Island, out of all prisons, nah, that shit ain't gonna work. Because a lot of you women, you wouldn't really be able to hold your ground against a man. I'm just saying. And usually men in them type of conditions, being in jail, they have to pretty much work out a lot. They have to pretty much hit the gym frequently, just to kind of like be able to like stand their ground against other guys that's trying to plot against them. That's what they have to do. And yeah, it's just a lot of shit they have to deal with, and in terms of being very cognizant of their surroundings and being on guard and things of that nature. And when it's coming to you female officers and any female that works in that type of environment where you have to deal with those type of men, those inmates and shit. Yeah, you know, that shouldn't be an environment for you to even work in. And to be honest, working in general shouldn't even be a thing for women, because the Bible already said what women are supposed to be keepers at home. That was already a biblical law for women, you know. And it's more feminine for women to actually be housekeepers than for them to be working in a 9 to 5 job. And it shows you that what that man was doing, like, shit, he did this while you know, it's not like there was a prison break where a lot of inmates try to like break out of prison and, you know, going crazy, and they were out there doing those type of things. Like, nah, it was just only him just doing it. Just imagine if it was something like where multiple inmates try to, you know, break free from their prisons or so, or like they end up trying to like cause some sort of mayhem, things of that nature, and they were out there trying to do that to these female correctional officers and whatever female workers work in the prison. You could only imagine in Jacob's trouble, like, how these men finna get down, because they hardly could even see a woman, you know what I mean, outside the prison system. So how much more when they come in contact with when they come across an actual woman in the day of Jacob's trouble. The only females they'll ever see is probably females that either work in that prison, in the facility, you know, or a female officer or so. And being an officer, out of all jobs females like working, honestly, being an officer should not be what females should do, especially, you know, when dealing with male inmates or so. That shouldn't be a thing, because women are emotional. That's one, and they're considered as the weaker vessel. And I'll bring that scripture out. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 5. For after this manner in the old time the holy women also who trusted in Yahweh adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Likewise ye husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. And yeah, pretty much the woman is considered as a weaker vessel, and for them to have jobs that they have to deal with those type of men in asylums, or, you know, which are considered as mental hospitals, or dealing with type of guys like in, you know, those crazy houses, or in jail. And jail itself is already like a crazy house slash mental asylum in a way, with the way shit goes down in there. You know, you got COs, which is correctional officers, you know, the acronym for it, which they gotta go about tasing the inmates, pepper spraying inmates or macing them, you know, using their baton to whip them and shit. Yeah, they have to use all that type of pressure amongst those inmates, and usually like it comes to a point where those inmates, like, they get kind of like a little used to it, to where, I don't know, like they need it to get attacked a lot more. They need a lot more guards to pretty much attack sometimes one inmate, as big as one inmate is. So yeah, and being in those type of conditions, it just kind of like, I don't know, it kind of makes you have that type of mindset where it's like in jail, it fucks you up mentally as a, you know, as a guy. And it's like, because you get so humiliated, and then you get not only humiliated, but you get pretty much like um enraged by the fact that you got COs in there waking you up whenever the fuck you they please, and you know, on top of that, you got them putting you against other inmates as well, because that's what some COs do, and things like that would kind of drive you a little crazy, you know, making you lose your mind. That's the reason why when you see those inmates that leave prison, once they pretty much leave jail, they have a higher reincarceration rate. Like, you know, they have a higher chance of being reincarcerated again. So like that's why they'll say the reincarceration rate is like about, I think, over 70% in America. You know, whereas compared to other countries, especially if you was to look at the EU on how they, like Norway or Sweden, how they imprison their inmates, like their reincarceration rates are lower because of how they treat their inmates. So, and you have it to where in these jail systems, like every state is different, and the different like jails, like let's say if it's a federal jail or a state jail, it's different you know, like rules that they could have and regulations that they have to keep the inmates under, and certain things that inmates gotta abide by. So whereas like they may not have, like, you know, conjugal visits as much as they do in certain jails. Like it depends on the state law and regulations, you know. Every state has their different laws and regulations, things of that nature. But they say in the federal prisons, such as like, you know, like one of those big prisons as well, like Rikers Island, like they don't have. I looked it up. They claim that they don't got no conjugal visits for them, but certain jails they do have, like, you know, conjugal visits where you can meet with your you know, your woman and stuff, and you're permitted to engage into sexual activity or so. And the thing is that a lot of men in jail don't even have a chance to do that. And you gotta also keep in mind a lot of men are in jail because of a woman, you know, for the most part. And you know, a lot of men also they can't even socialize with new women or so, because it's like it's pretty fucked up. And a lot of those men, they're just so much to their self, I guess. Like, well, they're just so they try to keep them away from women in a way in those prisons. So it's like they even go as far as to having such a reprobated mind, in a sense where they start raping other men or making other men turn into what they will call their bitch, you know, as a trying to make another man put a wig on and try to put on makeup for him and make him, you know, their bitch or whatever, and forcefully raping that man anally. So you can only imagine, like, shit, these type of niggas that's in jail, they used to fucking raping men with a wig on. So they don't give a fuck if they see a transgender, and when they get free in these latter days, and Jacob's trouble, it's been decades that they haven't touched a woman, you know. It's not even only years, some of them, it's been decades that they haven't even laid hands on a woman as much as they wanted to. And when they come across these women that claim that they LGBTQ, that they think they're, you know, a lesbian, they don't like dealing with men, they think they're, you know, a stud, a dyke, whatever the fucking case is, you know, they think they're Wonder Woman, they, you know. Well, guess what? And that day your ass is gonna get judged, and you're gonna get your ass handed to you. You know, and you're gonna realize in that day that a man of the Lord is something you're gonna crave for. You know, because that whole nonsense where Esau have you to go after your own lust and doing whatever thou wilt, that shit is gonna be done away with. You know, that whole mindset. And very soon, righteousness is going to be, that whole following after this truth and this law, statutes, commandments that the Most High made is going to be a desired thing, So you're going to appreciate it, because the Most High is going to set these times to get crazy to the point where you're going to appreciate the righteousness that being taught, by the men of the Lord. So that's how it's going to be in these latter times. But with that, I don't want to make the lesson long. Just want to bring it out to the point, and I already brought the point. So hope I made the lesson edifying. To give all glory, praise, and honor to Adonai Yahweh, B'Hashem, Shah Malak, Yahushua, B'Hashem Kakadash, double honor to the apostle and the elders, great millstone, peace, citation, hopeful light. Yahweh Shem, Shah Babakashah, Shalak Yam, Adawam, Wako, Yam, Wa, Babu, Shalom.